Hello, everybody. This is Warner Fussell substituting for Mel Allen, who'll be back in action next week. But there's no substitute for baseball, so let's get with it. Everyone tries to hang on as the pennant races keep building. The Dodgers hang their hat at the peak of the West. The Cubs hang in the East, but don't always hang on. The Angels get the hang of pennant pressure. The Rangers get hung up, but refuse to hang it up. And some unknown star should actually hang a little higher in the public's eye. So hang on for headlines and highlights coming up next on This Week in Baseball.
Well, it's a good feeling being back in first place because we really feel we belong there. I know that it's been a long struggle. The Giants have played well. They've had timely hitting and good pitching, but it was a situation where in years past we haven't had that good a second-half baseball team, and I think this year is our year to have a good second half. That's why we've gained so much ground. We're playing good, solid baseball again. Good pitching, good defense, timely hitting.
We have a little slogan, is what you did yesterday don't mean a thing today.
What Steve Garvey and the Los Angeles Dodgers did yesterday was cruise to a 1977 National League Western Division Championship, thanks to an imposing swell of early season victories. This year, San Francisco and Cincinnati have made that course a lot harder to navigate. The Dodgers have been typecast as fast starters, slow finishers, but they're now turning that around. The big Dodger in the sky has been rumbling. Early on, Dodger pitching struggled. But since the All-Star game, the team earned run average reached 2.30. That's a Dodger tradition that usually spells pennant.
The Dodgers have been known for pitching for generations. And this year is no exception. They have the best starters, a cumulative earned run average in the National League. I think it's 3-something in the low threes, which is very good. And without them, our starters for the last 3.5, 4 weeks, we would very easily be in third or fourth place.
Our pitching has been great. Reggie Smith has done a tremendous job. When we weren't hitting, we were getting outstanding pitching, but Reggie Smith literally carried our ball club. He has been a super player, and not to take anything away from the performance of some of the other guys in the National League, in my honest opinion, Reggie Smith has to be the MVP of the National League in 1978.
Reggie Smith has been baseball's hottest slugger since the All-Star break. 15 home runs and 38 runs batted in. Since late June, he's helped carry Los Angeles from third place, 6 games out, to first place, topped off with a 3-game sweep in Philadelphia. Who says the Dodgers are not a second-half ball club? Certainly not Reggie Smith or his manager.
We can't believe on things that have happened in the past. Those are statistics, but they're not facts about this year or next year. You can't say that that's a truism. There's no way. Our players don't believe in those things. I don't believe in them. We have played very well since the All-Star break, and we're going to continue to play well.
In the East, the Chicago Cubs also refuse to believe their history. Their fans say, pull up the rug of the past. This is a new year. Tradition has it that the Cubs hibernate in August, but not this August. When Cincinnati came to town, the Reds' Sparky Anderson discovered Herman Franks and his boys fighting for their own division title. Of course, that didn't stop an old-fashioned game of roller coaster baseball and the grand amusement park style of Wrigley Field. Well, not all amusement. It's here at Wrigley where one home run simply deserves another. And all are were subjected to the fiendish tricks of the Wrigley Funhouse. Or is it Sunhouse? Chicago's late-inning savior, Bruce Sutter, was greeted by a zealous flock of Sutter-rooters. But on this day, he could not protect a 3-run lead in the 9th inning. Ken Griffey connected to tie it, setting off a demonstration by Cincinnati conventioneers in the bleachers. So it all became an extra-inning affair with more madness like this. Bobby Mercer can't hang on. But Dan Dreesen didn't see it. The result, just another force out at second base. Too much sunshine, perhaps? But that didn't stop the Reds. In the same inning, pitcher Tom Hume's second hit of the season drove in the decisive runs for an inside-out Cincinnati win. But the next day, Chicago countered with a 9th inning, 2-out, 2-run rally to return to the win column. Ace Rick Russell's back now. He pitched a shutout against the Reds. And Dave Kingman showing signs of a power outburst. So keep your eye on the Chicago Cubs. They haven't been this close, this late, since 1969. Now it's time for this week's Volkswagen quiz. Last year, the LA Dodgers' Davey Lopes stole 5 bases in one game. In the last 50 years, 2 American League players have also stolen 5 bases in a game. Can you name them? Stay tuned, for later in the show, Volkswagen will ask you again. In the American League West, electricity is in the air, especially in Southern California, where fans are turning on in large numbers to the Angels, now making their first real bid to grab a pennant. Free agents like Lyman Bostock are paying off at the right time. Bostock cracked out 9 hits and 10 at-bats during one recent stretch and lifted his batting average over 300. Joe Rudi, another free agent, is also back in the groove, belting 5 home runs in 8 games. After some mild midseason blues, Frank Tanana is now back in tune for the Angels. Already he's put 16 victories in his hip pocket. California pennant dreaming began with that knockout duo of Tanana and Nolan Ryan. And now they're working on making it reality. Ryan also seems ready for the stretch run. In this game, he hurled 7 shutout innings against Baltimore. The pitching chart was clean, and so were the bases. Dennis Martinez matched goose eggs with Ryan, sending a scoreless tie into extra innings. This was the kind of game that gave manager Jim Fregosi and his men a chance to perform under pressure. Reliever Dave LaRoche has been outstanding in late-inning situations, and this ball game was no exception. The 0-0 deep freeze continued with help from a slippery sliding effort by Rick Miller in center field. Watch. Finally, in the bottom of the 14th, score still 0-0, Don Baylor cracked the ice. A California victory in less than heroic fashion. But the Angels weren't complaining. These are the games they'll need for a champagne season, and 78 could be just that. Many figured 78 would be a vintage year for the Texas Rangers, but most of the grapes tasted by manager Billy Hunter have been sour this season. All the same, the Rangers haven't forgotten about first, and recently reminded many that they're still a part of the race. During that time, Toby Harrah returned to an old home, shortstop. Here he proves you don't have to teach an old dog old tricks. Harrah's beginning to pick himself up. And so is first baseman Mike Hargrove, who's also having a subpar season. The Rangers were back in contention and appeared ready to take flight when they dropped into Kansas City for a big meeting with the Western frontrunners. Texas won the first game. Maybe the Rangers were finally ready to push aside their competition. The next day, with the bases loaded, George Brett's drive had extra bases written all over it. But Richie Zisk couldn't read. That catch saved 3 runs and was simply outstanding. But Billy Hunter was not thrilled by other Ranger efforts. Watch. A double play the hard way. Left-hander John Matlack has pitched superbly all year, but keeps finding new ways to lose low-scoring games. As a result, Kansas City won the remaining 2 from Texas and stayed in close company with the Angels at the top of the West. Still, the Royals as a team haven't quite found their expected level of consistency, although pitcher Paul Splitorf has, picking up victory number 15. As for the Rangers, though they keep straying off the pennant path, they won't be out of it until they're out of it. And before everyone walks away from that note of baseball wisdom, here's the answer to this week's Volkswagen quiz. The only 2 American leaguers in the last 50 years to steal 5 bases in a game are Bert Campaneris of Texas and this man, Amos Otis of the Kansas City Royals. Ever had the feeling that you're just not going anywhere? Face it, you're stuck. So just sit back and enjoy. What better place in the ballpark to stay glued to your seat? After all, ball players can also have trouble moving on. No compass, no road map. Sometimes dangerous. A real change of pace race. But he keeps right on trucking. But then there are other times, well, why bother? Sometimes you're better off using your head. Now watch this Ivy League play. While the runner streaks, the outfielder seeks. The umpire finally speaks. The runner must return to second because, honest, the Ivy just ate it up. If that's too much to swallow, balls also get lost in the big top of Seattle's Kingdome. A pop-up. But where is it? Is it fair? Or is it foul? Well, it looks like a run scores. Now everybody's talking. Sometimes an umpire forgets that a ball must pass first base fair to be fair. That is, if it winds up foul. For a moment, that had everyone in the dark. But observe this. Ground ball and good night. This is literally night baseball. Happens when the lights go out in Baltimore, where lately they've had trouble with some short circuits. But seldom does Baltimore have trouble at shortstop, thanks to veteran Mark Belanger, who's still making plays like this. Perhaps no surprise, because Belanger is one of the best in the business. But now check out this effort by a lesser known. Incredible. Shades of Ron Swoboda. It's really Joel Youngblood. A catch like that calls for a tip of the cap. And now a tip of the cap to some of baseball's most underrated players, none of them all-stars. First, Chicago's Bill Buckner, who's been batting over 300 for the 4th time, and he shows a flair for hitting in the clutch. Billy Bucks has been hobbled by ankle and leg injuries, but that hasn't stopped his aggressive play in the field, especially at first base. Chicago fans also feel more due should be given their shortstop, Ivan DeJesus. He's been the Cubs' catalyst in the leadoff spot for the last 2 years. On the bases, DeJesus can really fly. He's the main reason the Cubs will steal more bases this season than any year since 1945. As for fielding, few can match plays like this. In Milwaukee, Sixto Lezcano is considered by Brewer fans to be one of the finest outfielders anywhere. He's come into his own as a hitter this year, batting above 300 for most of the season and showing good power. In the outfield, the Sixto kid has been superb. Now here's another one, and this time Lezcano displays a throwing arm which has been leading the league in outfield assists. Juan Benitez of Texas may not make many headlines with his bat, but he's an above-average hitter and stole 26 bases last year. What many fans may not know is that last year, Benitez won the Gold Glove Award as the best center fielder in the American League. He not only has great range, but one of the best arms in the game. It's taken Minnesota's Dan Ford several years to round out his game, but the Twins center fielder is doing it this season, hitting close to 300 with good power and RBI production. But the real story on Ford is that he's developed into a top-flight center fielder. In fact, he just may be the newest candidate for this year's Gold Glove Award. When reliever Don Stanhouse arrived in Baltimore by way of a trade with Montreal, many scarcely knew who he was, but some considered him the best reliever in the National League over the second half of last season. As a reliever, he went 6-2 with 10 saves and a 1.39 ERA. This year, he's one of the best in the American League with 18 saves thus far. Few noticed Kent DeCulvey in the Pittsburgh bullpen last season. Goose Gossage grabbed most of the glory, but DeCulvey appeared in 72 games, mostly long relief, and won 10 while losing 1. This year, he's proven himself as a short man, leading the majors in appearances while compiling 24 saves. In Houston, Enos Cabell is once again hitting in the 280s. He's also a top base stealer, last year with 42. Reds manager Sparky Anderson calls Cabell the most underrated player in baseball. And it's not all offense. Just watch this play at third. Cabell's teammate, Jose Cruz, has been called at times the best-kept secret in the National League. As a hitter, he's right around the 300 mark for the 3rd year in a row. And he's also one of the top base runners in the league. 44 steals and 77 for Jose Cruz. You have to wonder how long talents like that can remain a secret. Finally, Andre Thornton of the Cleveland Indians, again one of the top home run hitters in the American League, and headed for a 100 RBI season. This appears to be his best year, although last season he was among the major league leaders in home run percentage, slugging percentage, and even fielding percentage for a first baseman. Despite all this, Andre Thornton didn't even manage to make this year's All-Star ballot. Some players just remain underrated, but hopefully time will bring about the proper acclaim. Pittsburgh's Dave Parker may not be underrated, but he certainly deserves acclaim as a recipient of this week's Gillette Special. Not even a fractured cheekbone stopped a sensational play. The Pirates won 8 straight and 10 of 11, and in those 10 victories, Dave Parker hit 5 home runs and drove in 15. Congratulations, Dave. That's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in Baseball.